Atomic Habits. The essential ideas from James Clear's best-selling book, reimagined as a story. There is a quiet misconception that shapes much of modern life. We believe that transformation arrives in dramatic moments. We imagine that one powerful decision, one burst of motivation, or one extraordinary opportunity will suddenly change everything. We wait for the perfect Monday, the perfect year, or the perfect version of ourselves to finally begin. Yet if history teaches us anything, it is that the most remarkable changes rarely announce themselves with fanfare. They begin invisibly, beneath the surface, through actions so small that most people dismiss them as insignificant. This is the central insight behind Atomic Habits. The quality of our lives is not determined by a handful of life-changing moments, but by the countless tiny decisions we make every single day. Our future is quietly constructed through repetition. Every action, no matter how small, becomes a vote for the kind of person we are becoming. Human beings are naturally drawn to grand ambitions. We love goals because goals are exciting. They provide clarity, direction, and hope. We dream about writing books, building businesses, becoming healthier, strengthening relationships, and creating meaningful lives. Yet there is an uncomfortable truth hidden beneath every goal. Goals do not change people, systems do. Every athlete at the Olympics has goals. Every entrepreneur wants success. Every writer dreams of producing great work. The difference lies not in what they desire, but in what they practice every day. A goal tells us where we want to go. A system determines whether we will ever get there. Imagine two people standing at the base of a mountain. Both wish to reach the summit. One spends every day staring at the peak, visualizing success and talking about how incredible it will feel to arrive. The other focuses on the next step, then the next, and then the one after that. Months later, only one of them stands at the top. The mountain was never conquered in a single heroic moment. It was conquered through thousands of ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. Nature operates according to this principle everywhere we look. Rivers carve valleys not through force, but through persistence. Trees grow ring by ring. Entire ecosystems emerge through gradual accumulation. The universe itself appears to favor compounding over sudden transformation. Yet human beings often resist this truth because patience lacks the excitement of immediate results. The tragedy is that many people abandon meaningful pursuits precisely when progress is occurring beneath the surface. They mistake a lack of visible outcomes for a lack of growth. They plant seeds and become frustrated when forests do not appear within days. They forget that roots must develop long before branches reach toward the sky. The book introduces a powerful idea. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as money grows through consistent investment, human potential expands through repeated behaviors. Improving by a small amount every day may feel insignificant in the moment, but over years, those improvements create extraordinary outcomes. The reverse is equally true. Small negative habits rarely destroy lives overnight. Their consequences accumulate gradually. A missed workout seems harmless. A few hours of unnecessary distraction feel insignificant. A small compromise in discipline appears unimportant. Yet repetition transforms isolated choices into identity, and identity shapes destiny. This understanding changes the way we think about progress. Success is rarely an event, it is a trajectory. Perhaps one of the most profound insights within Atomic Habits is the distinction between outcomes and identity. Most people focus on what they want to achieve. They say, "I want to run a marathon," or "I want to write a book." But lasting transformation begins with a different question: who do I wish to become? The person who says, "I want to run a marathon," focuses on an event. The person who says, "I am becoming a runner," focuses on identity. The event eventually ends. The identity remains. This subtle shift changes everything. Every action becomes evidence. Reading a single page is no longer merely reading a page. It is proof that you are a reader. Going for a short walk is evidence that you are someone who values health. Writing a few paragraphs becomes confirmation that you are a writer. Identity emerges through repetition. We become what we repeatedly do, not what we occasionally accomplish. This explains why dramatic changes often fail. People attempt to transform their entire lives overnight without changing the underlying story they tell themselves. They focus on behavior while ignoring identity. Yet, behavior that contradicts identity rarely lasts. The individual who sees themselves as undisciplined will struggle to maintain disciplined actions. The person who believes they are incapable of change will unconsciously reinforce that belief. Real transformation requires rewriting the narrative through small acts of evidence accumulated over time. Human beings protect consistency between who they believe they are and how they behave. The challenge, therefore, is not forcing massive change, but gradually becoming the kind of person for whom desired behaviors feel natural. Environment plays an equally powerful role in this process. We often celebrate willpower as though success depends entirely upon personal determination. But willpower is an unreliable resource. It fluctuates with stress, fatigue, emotion, and circumstance. Systems, however, remain. The world around us constantly shapes behavior. A musician who keeps a guitar within reach practices more often. A writer with a dedicated workspace creates more consistently. Healthy food placed in visible locations encourages better decisions. Small environmental changes influence actions in profound ways. The most successful individuals rarely rely solely on motivation. They design conditions that make good habits easier and bad habits more difficult. They understand that human beings naturally follow paths of least resistance. Instead of fighting this tendency, they use it to their advantage. Imagine attempting to build a reading habit while keeping your phone beside you, notifications constantly appearing. Compare that to placing the phone in another room and leaving a book on the table. The second environment quietly guides behavior without requiring extraordinary self-control. This insight extends far beyond productivity. Entire cultures operate through environmental design. Cities encourage certain lifestyles. Families establish invisible norms. Organizations create patterns of behavior through shared expectations. We become, in many ways, products of the environments we inhabit. That realization is both humbling and empowering. If surroundings shape habits, then changing surroundings can help change lives. Another important lesson within the philosophy of atomic habits is the importance of reducing friction. Human beings naturally gravitate toward behaviors that require less effort. This tendency often works against long-term goals, but it can also become an ally. The person who wishes to exercise might prepare clothes the night before. The writer may establish a simple routine that removes unnecessary decisions. The entrepreneur automates repetitive tasks. Each small reduction in friction increases the likelihood of consistent action. Excellence rarely depends upon extraordinary effort performed occasionally. It depends upon ordinary effort performed consistently. The opposite principle applies to undesirable behaviors. Increasing friction makes harmful habits more difficult to sustain. Deleting distracting applications, limiting accessibility, or introducing moments of reflection before acting creates space for intentional choice. In many cases, success is not about becoming stronger. It is about becoming wiser in the design of everyday life. One of the reasons habits possess such extraordinary power is that they free mental energy for higher pursuits. When beneficial behaviors become automatic, attention can be directed elsewhere. The pianist no longer thinks about individual notes. The driver no longer consciously processes every movement. Mastery transforms effort into instinct. Yet automation carries risks as well. Habits can become invisible. We continue performing behaviors long after they cease serving our goals. Comfort replaces curiosity, routine replaces growth. This is why reflection remains essential. Habits should support intentional living rather than replace it. Periodically examining our systems ensures that they remain aligned with the people we wish to become. There is another paradox hidden within mastery. The very repetition required for excellence often creates boredom. People imagine successful individuals as endlessly motivated, but reality is far less glamorous. The writer must write on uninspired days. The athlete trains when enthusiasm disappears. The entrepreneur solves problems even when progress feels invisible. What separates extraordinary performers from everyone else is not passion alone. It is the willingness to remain consistent when novelty fades. Boredom, therefore, is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that repetition is occurring. Mastery exists on the other side of monotony. The ability to continue despite temporary discomfort becomes one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. Modern culture often glorifies intensity. We celebrate dramatic transformations and extraordinary effort. Yet sustainable growth favors consistency over intensity. A person who exercises moderately for years accomplishes more than someone who trains obsessively for a month and quits. A writer producing a page each day eventually creates entire libraries. Small actions possess extraordinary power precisely because they are repeatable. This philosophy changes how we understand failure as well. Missing a single workout is not failure. Eating an unhealthy meal is not failure. Losing focus for a day is not failure. The true danger lies in allowing isolated mistakes to become patterns. The principle is beautifully simple. Never miss twice. Life will inevitably disrupt routines. Unexpected events occur. Motivation fluctuates. Perfection remains impossible. But resilience means returning quickly rather than allowing temporary setbacks to become permanent identities. Human beings often judge themselves harshly for minor failures while ignoring years of positive behavior. Yet progress is determined by overall direction, not isolated moments. The person who repeatedly returns to meaningful habits builds momentum that eventually outweighs occasional mistakes. This perspective encourages compassion without sacrificing responsibility. It acknowledges imperfection while maintaining commitment. Perhaps the deepest lesson within Atomic Habits concerns the relationship between freedom and discipline. Many people view discipline as restriction, as something that limits possibilities. Yet genuine discipline creates freedom. Financial discipline creates economic freedom. Physical discipline creates freedom of movement and vitality. Intellectual discipline creates freedom of understanding. Emotional discipline creates freedom within relationships. The habits we cultivate today determine the choices available tomorrow. This truth becomes increasingly apparent with time. The individual who invests consistently in learning gains opportunities unavailable to others. The person who nurtures relationships builds networks of trust and support. The one who values health preserves energy for future ambitions. Compounding works quietly, but relentlessly. The challenge, of course, is that human beings prefer immediate rewards. We value visible outcomes over invisible progress. We seek dramatic change rather than gradual accumulation. Yet nearly everything meaningful in life obeys longer timelines. Love deepens over years. Trust develops through repeated interactions. Wisdom emerges through experience. Character forms through countless ordinary choices. The modern world encourages speed, but the human spirit often flourishes through patience. This understanding invites us to rethink ambition itself. Perhaps success is not about achieving extraordinary goals as quickly as possible. Perhaps it is about constructing systems that allow growth to continue indefinitely. The person who falls in love with the process gains an extraordinary advantage. They no longer depend entirely upon external results for motivation. They find satisfaction in practice itself. Improvement becomes rewarding regardless of immediate outcomes. The musician learns to enjoy rehearsal. The writer values daily creation. The athlete appreciates training. Process replaces obsession with destination. Ironically, those who focus most deeply on systems often achieve the goals others merely dream about. The extraordinary life is rarely built through isolated moments of brilliance. It emerges through ordinary actions, performed with extraordinary consistency. It grows quietly, beneath the surface, long before visible success arrives. And perhaps that is the most hopeful message within Atomic Habits. Transformation does not require becoming someone entirely different overnight. It requires becoming slightly better, slightly wiser, and slightly more intentional each day. The future is not shaped solely by grand decisions made during moments of inspiration. It is shaped by the routines we establish when nobody is watching, the systems we maintain when motivation fades, and the identities we reinforce through repeated action. Because in the end, habits are not merely things we do. They are the architecture of who we become. Every choice casts a vote. Every routine strengthens a story. Every repeated action contributes to the person waiting on the horizon. And the remarkable truth is that this process is happening already, whether consciously or unconsciously. The only real question is whether we are participating deliberately. The invitation of Atomic Habits is simple yet profound. Stop waiting for massive transformation and begin respecting the power of small things. Plant the seed, take the walk, read the page, write the paragraph. Make the healthier choice. Return after setbacks. Protect the systems that support growth. Because a meaningful life is rarely built in dramatic leaps. It is constructed through thousands of invisible moments that accumulate into something extraordinary. The person you become tomorrow depends largely upon what you repeatedly practice today. And if small habits possess the power to quietly lead a life away from its highest potential, they possess an even greater power to guide it back. one action at a time, one day at a time, not through perfection, but through persistence, not through intensity, but through consistency. And not through becoming someone new overnight, but through proving to yourself again and again the kind of person you have decided to be.